The first person to light a fire probably had no idea what they had started. Because back then, there were no matches and no lighters. No one even knew why some things burned while others didn't. Yet, at some point in history, humans managed to create a flame themselves. But the real question is how they did it for the first time. To answer that, we have to go much further back. To a time when humans didn't make fire yet, and could only watch it. Nature itself created fire. Lightning could set a dry tree on fire within moments. Sometimes fire would spread through grasslands for miles. Early humans had seen this scene many times. But their first reaction probably wasn't to get closer. They stayed away from something that burned and spread. Because fire could burn their skin. Its smoke could hurt their eyes. And wind could suddenly make the flames much larger. But after every wildfire, something interesting happened. Everything didn't remain exactly the way it had been before. Some plants had become softer. Some seeds had changed. Sometimes, burned animal remains could also be found among the ashes. Something that had first looked dangerous now had a benefit too. Humans could eat some of this cooked food. This probably made humans even more curious. But there was still a problem. Humans couldn't easily carry fire with them. They might take a partly burning branch from a natural fire. The flame would remain on it for a while. But a little wind could ruin everything. Rain could also put out the last glowing ember. So keeping a fire alive was a skill of its own. Humans gradually learned that dry would burn better. They learned that thin branches caught fire more easily. Then they realized that larger pieces of wood could keep the flames going longer. This meant fire was slowly becoming more than a random event. Humans were learning how it behaved. But an even bigger problem remained. If the fire went out, they had to wait for nature again. Lightning might not appear for days, or even weeks. So an important question emerged. Why wait for nature every time? Why not make fire ourselves? That question probably began a very long journey. The first attempts may not have worked at all. One stone would hit another. A tiny spark would appear. But a spark alone couldn't make a fire. It had to land on something that could catch it. This is where the choice of material became important. An ordinary piece of wood might only produce smoke. But an extremely dry material could hold the spark. Air also had to reach it. If the spark was smothered, everything was over. But if it got too much air, the material might burn too quickly. So making fire wasn't just about creating a spark. You had to turn that spark into a flame. This skill probably didn't appear all at once. Humans had to keep experimenting. Some attempts produced only smoke. Some attempts didn't even produce that. But every failure taught humans something new. Maybe one material was better. Maybe a different method was needed. Maybe the speed of the movement mattered. Maybe the amount of pressure mattered. Slowly, these experiences began to add up. But archaeology teaches us an important distinction. Using fire is not the same as making fire. Humans may have taken fire from nature. Then, they may have kept it burning for a long time. That means humans were controlling fire, but it still doesn't prove they could create it themselves. At Wonderwerk cave in South Africa, very ancient evidence of fire has been found. This evidence dates back roughly 1 million years. Burned plant remains and burned bones were found there. These traces were located inside the cave. That makes them especially important. Because a natural wildfire usually wouldn't create this kind of pattern. So humans may have been using fire there. But this still doesn't answer our main question. Because we're looking for the first fire humans created themselves. Around 790,000 years ago, another interesting set of evidence appears. This time at Gesher, Benot in Israel. Burned wood was found there. Burned seeds were also discovered in the area. Some stones also showed signs of exposure to heat. These remains were concentrated in specific locations. This may suggest that fires were made in particular places. So humans were working with fire in an organized way long before more recent dates. But the main question was still there. When did humans actually learn to make fire? This is where the story gets even more interesting. New research has provided important evidence from around 400,000 years ago. This evidence comes from a site called Barnum in England. What makes Barnum special isn't just the evidence of burning. Researchers found pieces of iron pyrite there. Pyrite can create sparks when struck against the right stone. The important detail is that pyrite was not common in that area, so humans may have deliberately brought it to the site. Now we have a very important clue. Humans living around 400,000 years ago may have known how to create sparks using specific materials. This is a major difference from the earlier evidence. Now we're not simply talking about the presence of fire. We're talking about a possible method for creating fire. Even so, we still can't identify the first human who did it, because this skill probably wasn't invented by one person alone. It may have developed over many generations. One generation may have become better at keeping fire alive. The next may have improved ways of creating sparks. And another generation may have learned how to turn those sparks into flames. So the first fire was probably not a single moment. It was a long process. A process that began with observation, then moved to using fire, then developed into controlling it, and eventually reached the ability to create it. But why did humans work so hard to master fire? Because fire gave humans much more than warmth. Fire could transform food. Meat became softer when heated. Some plants became easier to use after cooking. Cooked food could also provide energy in a form that was easier for the body to digest. So fire changed the way humans ate. But food wasn't the only reason fire mattered. Fire also produced light. That meant humans could stay active for longer after sunset. Fire produced heat too. That made life in colder environments easier. A flame could also discourage some animals from coming closer. So fire gradually became an all-purpose tool. But an even bigger change was coming. Humans realized that heat could be used to transform materials. They could heat clay and turn it into a harder material. They could heat sand at high temperatures and make glass. Much later, heat would also become essential for working with metals. So fire wasn't just a tool. Fire became a tool for creating new tools that changed the path of human technology for thousands of years. But perhaps the biggest change happened in social life. Humans could gather around a fire. One person could prepare food. Another could collect wood, and everyone else could stay near the same flame. Night was no longer simply a time to hide. Humans could use part of the night for other activities. Fire became a fixed point in group life.